there was struggle like every millisecond,
Okay.
and it was all of it was in my mind because I had trained my mind early on to understand that like everything could be taken away from me in a second. When I was asked to leave Buds the first time, that was unexpected to me. I was so immature and so like cloudy space, like, oh, I'm just gonna keep going. They're like, hey, brother, we got standards here, man. you, and you're not making it, and so you're not welcome here anymore. I created like this defense mechanism in my mind to protect myself from ever being shocked or surprised like that again, which is obviously just an illusion, but it was something, but I didn't know it at the time. So I really felt like like you never know what's going to happen today. I made it all the way up to this point last time, but every day is a new day. For example, like when we went into second phase, you still continue to do the timed runs and the timed swims and the timed courses and that kind of thing, but the times get harder to overcome. One day we were doing the obstacle course, but we were doing it backwards, the opposite way that it was designed to be run, which was just an interesting thing because our brains and our neuromuscular connection things have been so wired in to like, here's how I do this obstacle. Now they're like, we're breaking this down and we're doing this. It was like running the obstacle course in some ways for the first time, and I was doing so well, with everything. I was running fast, I was performing well, I was a senior guy there because it had taken so long to come back. I was 29 years old, I was doing some leadership stuff. One of the obstacles called the high wall. When you run it traditionally, there are these elevated stumps that you hop, 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 and then you hop up to the high wall and then you vault yourself over and then you do this kind of 10 or 12 foot fall down onto the sand and then you continue on to the next thing. Well, this one, we had to run up to the 12-foot wall and then scale it without hopping up on the logs to get to the top. It wasn't easy for me. I jumped up onto the wall. I almost grabbed onto the thing, but then I slipped and slid down the first side of the wall. And you're running in the soft sand, up to this thing. So it's not like you're on this bouncy track, just like, it. If I was to over dramatize, it'd be like in a dream where you can't run fast enough, you can't run hard enough, or whatever. You're just like in this swamp, kind of thing. But anyway, again, over dramatizing it, but it kind of gives you an idea. So anyway, I did it again, went up, like I just missed the thing, and I slid down the wall again. And then it was just like, boom, all attention was put on me. And it was just like, can you not get over this wall? And all of a sudden, like all my biggest fears, all everything kind of came down on me. Shoot, this can be the end of my run. None of this is real, but it was like in my mind, is this the end of my run? And are they going to drop me from SEAL training? And because all the attention went on me, it was like, listen, if you don't get over the wall the next time, the entire class is going to go get wet. And I was like, oh, like this is the last thing you want to do. No SEAL I know like wants to be like wet and cold all the time. You do not want to be the reason why other people get wet. Maybe in first phase, it's like this really cool thing to struggle and fight and then triumph, but that's not cool anymore in second phase. You're here to be a SEAL. You got to kick ass at everything you do. Otherwise, what are you doing here kind of thing? The point is, none of this was welcome attention. This was not a good thing. With the weight on my shoulders and fear and all this stuff and being excommunicated from the class from making people get wet and all this stuff, I ran and I made it. I got to the top. I got to the top of the wall. It was a big long jump. And because I was kind of emotionally, kind of physically exhausted or whatever from, and by the way, I had run the obstacle course prior to this sort of thing. I did something that I do that I had done for years, which is I used to take martial arts and I did these things like it's called a dive roll, where you land on the ground on your feet and instantly you roll to your shoulder, you roll diagonally across your back onto your hips, and then you roll out of it. It's a way to receive the ground and energy and all this stuff without your knees or all that stuff just taking the brunt of the force. So I got to the top and then I just jumped off the wall and I did what I've done 1,000 times, 2,000, 3, 4,000 times in my life. And as soon as my shoulder hit the ground, as it has done thousands of times in my life, it separated. I separated my shoulder, and it was a big pop, and it was a big pain, and I rolled out of it. And they're like, "All right, good job. Okay, now let's go for a run." And then we commenced to do this 4 mile soft sand conditioning run while my shoulder was hanging down. And it was the kind of pain I see this happen. I used to watch football a lot, and I see these injuries happen on the field. And when a player sustains an injury where they believe their season is over, like there's just this thing, and that's what happened to me. All this to get to all this, and I separated my shoulder. I was going to get rolled back again, and who knows? Because I didn't have the ability to master my mind or anything like that. I was a herd animal in my mind. I was being controlled by my mind, and I was just like, this is it. I'm done. So I wasn't going to quit, but I just wasn't going to be able to function. I was no way I was going to do pull-ups or anything. So I went on the conditioning run, and I was last, which was uh, not unusual, but I was last keeping up with the group. This time I was last, not with the group. And they're like, dude, what's going on? You're not even running fast, but you're sweating. Like I was sweating like crazy. And I was like, I didn't know that I separated my shoulder. I was like, I think I broke my shoulder. And they're like, what? And so they took me to medical and they showed me what was going on anyway. It just so happens that the dive phase, the ultimate objective of dive phase is to complete all these dives. You have to pass time runs, you got to pass time swims, you got to do all this stuff. But there was no requirement to do pull-ups in second phase. Like no one ever failed second phase because they didn't do 20 pull-ups or whatever it was. So they said, hey, listen, we're going to try to keep you from getting rolled. You've been doing really well. You have to do all the dives. You have to do all the time runs and time swims and all that. You just have to swim with one arm, all this stuff. So I did. And I made it through, and I rehabbed and all that kind of stuff. But every single day, I wasn't running like, you know, I was running like I was hurt because I was hurt. I couldn't move my left shoulder. Was it like smooth sailing? Like absolutely not. I was not performing up to my best, which in the hardest military training in the country, that's like death sentence kind of thing. I was in the pool and we had to do all these races, and I was racing with one arm. And I just could not be last. And so sometimes I was winning these races somehow. I was just petrified that I was going to be the last, and even whatever. It just wasn't what it was. But at the end of the day, I continued to suffer because I didn't understand the mind. I didn't understand thinking. I didn't understand all these things. And I was losing in a lot of ways. I didn't lose because I continued on, but I was losing because I was kicking my own ass like every single second of every single day.